Welcome to Power Talk. This is a special series where we are talking to some of the most influential and interesting CEOs in this country and trying to figure out what their plans are and how their plans can actually help in transforming India. And we have with us Amitabh Kant, whose job it is to actually transform India. He's the CEO of NITI Aayog. And interesting that that acronym has all sorts of interesting interpretations now.
It's the National Institution for Transforming India, actually.
Is that officially now what NITI stands for?
That is exactly it, actually.
So Amitabh Kant, just in case you've been on another planet for the last so many years, is not just the person who's been one of the most influential and in many ways powerful bureaucrats, one of the people who really knows how to get things done while being inside the bureaucracy and being inside the government system. He's also one of India's best branding and marketing experts, I would have to say, because I'm trying to think of how many brands you've actually come up with. Startup India, Make in India, God's Own Country in Kerala, Incredible India, Atithi Devo Bhava was also yours?
That's right. That's right.
So why are you a bureaucrat and not... by the way, we are here to have lunch, so feel free to dive in as we go forward. But so why be a bureaucrat and not be a marketing maven? Why not go and join some branding agency?
The best opportunities you get are in government. I mean, the size and scale of doing things are just enormous here. So, I mean, it's been a fascinating experience doing creative things with the government. I don't think any other sector would have given me these opportunities. So I've really enjoyed working with the government.
I get what you're saying, that the government is where you can really have the biggest influence. But I'll tell you what the flip side of that is. And we go back a long way, and I seem to remember even when I was once thinking about a job in the government, and I came asking you for advice at some point. You were just a very junior officer at that time. And one of the big concerns is, yeah, you're in the government, but you've got so many things tying you down. Your arms are tied behind your back, you've got a ball and chain on your ankles, the system weighs you down, their politicians are not allowing you to get things done. That's a concern that many bureaucrats have. How have you been able to get around that? Or have you got around that?
Vikram, I just keep taking a lot of risks. And I find that every time in government, you've come up with the creative ideas. There may be 5 people trying to block it, but you'll find someone in the system always supporting it. And therefore, just try, never think small. Just think big, think large, and go for the big ticket thing, and you'll achieve success in government.
No. That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Another way of looking at it is that, you take those risks. At some point, you'll have a CAG or a CBI inquiry, after you.
Yes.
And that's a genuine concern. I'm not just being facetious. That's a genuine concern that bureaucrats have.
Yeah. So I've got into trouble. I got into severe trouble in Kerala once, but that's part of life. I mean, you keep taking it. I became even a bigger optimist after I got into trouble, and I joined service just to make a change, and my belief is that you keep pushing for it all the time, and you'll always achieve success in government if you think. I've found working with big ticket thinking politicians much easier, and every time I've pushed for change, I've got support from politicians.
No, so you're lucky that you now reached that position where you're getting that support, right? You're a CEO of NITI Aayog. You're seen as somebody whom the Prime Minister has a lot of confidence in. You're getting the backing of the government in the steps that you're now taking to make India an easier place to do business. And I'm going to come to that. But I just want to rewind a little bit, because it's a question that I know all bureaucrats will be wanting to hear from you. Because at the end of the day, to be really effective in making any change, you got to take decisions. And any decision that you take is good for this person and bad for that person. And one of the biggest problems in India and in the bureaucracy in particular is the minute you're taking you're just scared to take a decision, because you're saying, look, at the end of the day, if the decision is wrong, and it could be a wrong decision, what's going to happen?
There was a time when I was a young sub-collector. I joined service in a place called Telisheri, where actually it's a small subdivision in the Malabar region of Kerala, and that's the place actually where Lord Wellesley started his career, later became the Duke of Wellington. That's the place from where Colin Cowdrey started playing his cricket from. I started my career there, and I knocked out something like 450 odd encroachments on place. And there was a point of time when I had almost 12 or 13 contempt of court cases against me. I just pushed it hard. But if you're clear about what you're doing, if you're doing it in the proper manner, if you're able to argue out your case, you'll always achieve success. And my belief is that just keep doing the right things, just keep pushing for the big ticket things, and young people with their whole lot of enthusiasm and dynamism will always achieve success. So my advice to young officers is that go for the big ticket thing. Do what you think is right. Never do the wrong things, but do what is good in the interest of the country.
All right, now let me come to what you're doing right now. Now, part of your job, and this is your mandate, is to make India a better place to do business. Now, okay, we've started to climb up the competitiveness index, and that's great. 16-point jump this year, wonderful. But in ease of doing business, let's face it, we have still a long way to go. Would you agree that today, when it comes to red tape, and there have been improvements, I'm not saying there haven't been improvements, but if you look at the broader picture, India is still a pretty awful place to do business in. It's not easy to do business in India.
So Vikram, over the last 68 years, we've made India an extremely complex, complicated, and a very, very difficult place to do business in. We've added paperwork, procedure, rules, regulations, acts, and India is undeniably a very difficult place to do business in. But the good thing is that this government in the last 2 years has really attempted to make things far more easier. So we've dismantled a lot of rules and regulations. Export and import, we've brought down number of forms from 11 and 9 to 3. You can register a company in 1 day. Medium and small industries can do their registration in exactly 5 minutes today. Bankruptcy law, National Company Law Tribunal, GST, all these are big ticket structural changes. There's a lot of business process re-engineering that is actually taking place in government.
And that's interesting because in the past, it was some of the states who really led the push towards reform and making India a better place to do business. Chandrababu Naidu, there were other examples, of course, as well. But if you look at that, and again, I'm sort of coming back and harping on this theme, why is India a difficult place to do business? Because you have red tape, you have lots and lots of procedures, you have a bureaucracy that is reluctant or too scared or both to actually cut the red tape because there are forms and there are procedures and there are norms that have to be followed. And then there are a lot of people entrenched in the bureaucracy and who are wedded to the old system. I mean, you still have all these years after saying we shouldn't have tax terrorism, there still is tax terrorism, there's still harassment, there's still all of that going on. So I'm going to come to the lower level, but how do you unblock it at the higher levels?
Yeah. So a good thing is that it's starting from right at the top. I mean, the government at the highest level, and actually the Prime Minister wants India to be an easy and simple place to do business in. So a lot of change that is happening is being driven from the top right now. And what I find is that the layers of mindsets of bureaucracy is changing at the top level. We need to push that in a much bigger way. And this 68 years of controls and regulation and rules are not going to go away easily. It's going to take time, but that's a good work in progress. I think a lot has been achieved in the last 2 years, and I think a lot is being achieved in the states. Suddenly I find states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh competing, Telangana competing in a big way. And these states, the mineral-rich states, have dismantled a huge amount of rules and regulations. They are emerging as the key change agents. And I think we need to take this now from what we are trying to do. We did this for ease of doing business. But the big change that is needed is in education, in health, and water. And we are trying to push the similar kind of competitive zeal in these sectors so that India can reform and change in a big way.
So is one of the answers, and sort of tie up everything that we've spoken so far, is one of the answers to actually tell people, whether they are state governments, whether they are ministers, whether they are politicians, or whether they are bureaucrats, to tell people in the system that, look, you will not be punished for taking a wrong decision, as long as it's a bona fide decision. Yes, if you've taken money and there's corruption involved and then there are scandals. You see, if you look at the last years of the UPA, the government practically came to a standstill. Why? Justifiably, there were a large number of scams, but then the fear of those scams also meant that all decision-making ground to a halt. So is that something that you're thinking of doing now? Tell people that, look, don't be scared to take, as you started by saying, don't be scared to take a decision. It could be the wrong decision. You will not be punished. You'll be punished if you don't do anything. And you'll be punished, obviously, if there's evidence that you've taken money or corrupt. then you'll be punished, but not otherwise.
So, Vikram, we take a lot of bona fide decisions. Every day, on every file, we take a decision. I mean, as Secretary DIPP, I was issuing licenses, hundreds and thousands of them.
You did it, but others don't.
No, but the issue is that you're causing somebody a pecuniary advantage. Now, if that is going to be held against me tomorrow in an inquiry, that is, nobody will take a decision. So you need to protect an honest civil servant who's taking bold, bona fide decisions in the interest of the country. It's not about causing somebody a bona fide, a pecuniary advantage. Whether I've caused an advantage to myself, I haven't. But every single decision will cause a pecuniary advantage. The way the Corruption Act is drafted today, if I cause you a pecuniary advantage tomorrow, I'll be held responsible. So it's a flawed system.
Yes. That's the point I was trying to make.
So it's a flawed
doesn't it
system.
need to be reformed?
And I think the government has moved forward on this. They've redrafted this. It's gone before the Parliamentary Standing Committee. And the intention is to protect all honest civil servants. And I'm repeating this, honest civil servants must be protected.